Welcome back to the channel! Today we're talking about the cosmic egg. Cosmological narratives frequently begin with a state of absolute density and silence, a void possessing weight and potential rather than emptiness. From this pre-existence emerges distinct form, an oval sealed and containing the totality of matter and energy. Across diverse civilizations, the shape functions as the primary vessel of origin, an egg guarding the universe with a calcified shell. The cosmic egg persists as a dominant symbol in global mythology, securing its place in creation stories from the Nile Delta to the Pacific archipelagos. It serves as the initial state of the cosmos, floating on primordial waters, radiating a golden hue, or existing under extreme internal pressure. Upon rupturing, the contexts expand to establish the heavens and the earth, initiating the motion of the celestial bodies and defining the spatial parameters of the universe. Ancient observers utilized the egg as a representation of wholeness because the object offered a tangible example of concealed life. An agricultural society could observe an egg and recognize the existence of a living entity inside, dormant yet viable. Expanding this observation to a universal scale allowed early thinkers to conceptualize the egg as a container for stars, oceans, deities, and biological life, all compressed into a single sphere waiting to release. Societies integrated this concept into their theological architecture, incorporating the egg into rites, oral traditions, and iconography to explain how illumination emerged from obscurity and how existence commenced with the separation of materials. Centuries later, physicists approached the same fundamental problem using mathematical rigor rather than mythological narrative. Georges Lemaître proposed the Primeval Atom hypothesis, describing a point of infinite density that expanded to form the observable universe. Early discussions in cosmology frequently employed the term cosmic egg to describe this singularity because the human mind favors the oval as a model for containment and subsequent expansion. Throughout human history, the egg remains the most efficient symbol for addressing the transition from a singular silent origin to a vast, complex universe. The Egyptian mythological record presents multiple accounts of creation, but the tradition arising from Hermopolis places significant emphasis on the primordial waters and the emergence of the cosmic egg. This cosmogony identifies the Ogdad, the group of 8 primordial entities representing the fundamental state of chaos prior to order. These beings, Nun and Nanet, Amun and Amunet, Kuk and Kauket, and Ha and Hauhut, converged to create the state of high tension. From this interaction, the first physical object materialized from the void, floating on the chaotic waters. One variation of this narrative attributes the placement of the egg to a celestial bird known as the Genjin Wur, or the Great Cackler. This entity deposited the egg into the primordial environment containing the potential for light and life. When the shell fractured, Ra, the sun god, emerged to illuminate the horizon, establishing the first sunrise. Various scripts identify the solar deity as Ra or connect the event to the emergence of a lotus flower, but the core mechanic remains consistent. Light functioned as a captive element within an oval casing, requiring a physical rupture to disperse darkness. Alternative texts describe Ibis, associated with the god Thoth, laying the egg that contained the seed of ordered reality. The primeval mound, or Benben, which arose from the waters, shares the geometric characteristics of this egg, curved, rising, and pregnant with the potential for life. Egyptian priesthoods observed the daily cycle of the sun, interpreted it as a recurring biological event, viewing each dawn as a repetition of the initial hatching. The cyclical perspective reinforced the idea that creation acts as a continuous process, maintaining the stability of the world through the consistent renewal of solar energy. Moving to the northern Mediterranean, the Orphic tradition of Greece established a cosmogony distinct from the familiar Olympian hierarchy. The Orphic Rhapsodies describe a beginning prior to the reign of Zeus, focusing on the interactions of Kronos and Ananke, or time and necessity. These forces acted upon the chaotic expanse of the void, manipulating the formless aether until a spherical mass solidified. This object is often described as a silver egg, originating from the darkness and contained the blueprint for all subsequent existence. The rupture of this egg released the firstborn deity, known variously as protogonos or phanes. Descriptions of phanes emphasize a luminous, hermaphroditic nature possessing golden wings and surrounded by the signs of the zodiac. This being embodied the principle of generation, creating the gods of the physical universe from within itself. The egg in this context held every potential dualism, male and female, light and dark, solid and ethereal, in a state of unity. Orphic rituals adopted this imagery, using the egg entwined with a serpent to symbolize the eternal cycle of time and the containment of cosmic power. Hesiod's theology omits the egg in favor of a genealogical succession of gods. The Orphic texts insist that the egg is the primary mechanism of order. It represents the necessary transition from inertia to activity. The splitting of the egg serves as the catalyst for separation of elements, allowing the sky to detach from the earth and providing a space for life to inhabit. This narrative underscores the belief that the universe functions as a living organism that required a gestation period before achieving its current form. Vedic literature provides one of the most detailed articulations of the cosmic egg theory. The texts describe a primordial state dominated by water, possessing no distinct form. Within this expanse, heat, or tapas, generated a single point of intense energy. This manifestation took the form of or the golden womb, a sphere of radiating light and floating amidst the dark waters. The Joymania Brahma outlines the duration of this gestation, suggesting the egg floated for a vast period before dividing. The separation of the shell created the fundamental dichotomy of the universe. The upper half became the celestial sphere, while the lower half solidified into the terrestrial plane. The Satapatha Brahmana offers a variation involving Prajapati, the lord of creatures. In this account, the waters practiced austerity to reproduce, resulting in the formation of the golden egg. Prajapati emerged from this vessel after a specific incubation period, proceeding to articulate the worlds through his speech and body. The Rig Veda addresses the directly as the source of all existence. The golden embryo that held the Lord of the Universe, later Puranic texts expanded on this, describing the god Brahma residing in the egg. Upon waking, Brahma meditated to divide the egg, using fragments to construct the cardinal directions, the sky, and the earth. This tradition integrates the concept of time with spatial expansion, implying the universe undergoes a biological process of maturation. The recurring sequence, enclosure, incubation, rupture, and organization, demonstrates a sophisticated attempt to model the expansion of the universe using biological analogies available to ancient scholars. The Kalevala, the national epic of Finland, locates the origin of the world in a collision between the elements of air and water. Ilmatar, the spirit of air, descended into the primordial ocean, drifting for centuries in a state of solitude. The narrative induces a waterfowl, often identifies as a scaup or golden eye, searching for a resting place from the open waves. Ilmatra raised her knee from the water, providing a solid surface for birds to nest. The bird deposited 6 golden eggs and 1 of iron, incubating them on the knee of the water spirit. As the bird watched the clutch, the heat became intense, causing Ilmatar to flinch. The motion dislodged the eggs, causing them to fall in the abyss and shatter. The fragments failed to perish. Instead, they transformed into the components of the physical world. The lower halves of the shells consolidated to form the earth, while the upper halves ascended to become the arches of the heavens. The yolks transmuted into the sun, the whites became the moon, and the speckled fragments scattered to form the stars. This myth emphasizes the transformation of the broken matter into structured reality. The universe arises directly from the wreckage of the initial incubation. The Finnic tradition relies on the concept of birth as breakage, mapping how stability emerges only after the disruption of the original container. Variations of this myth appear across the boreal regions of Eurasia, consistently attributing the creation of sky and earth to the separation of an avian eggshell. In Chinese mythology presents the concept of Hundun, a primordial chaos often compared to a chicken's egg. This contained the opposing principles of yin and yang, mixed together in a state of indistinguishable fluidity. The giant Pangu resided within this enclosure, growing and developing for 18,000 years. As Pangu matured, the balance within this egg shifted, necessitating a release. When the shell finally cracked, the contents separated according to their density. The light, pure substances representing yang rose to form the heavens. The heavy, turbid substances representing yin sank to form the earth. Pangu stood between these two diverging planes, pushing the sky upward and pressing the earth downward to prevent them from collapsing back into chaos. His height increased daily, further expanding the distance between the two realms. Upon Pangu's death, his physical form underwent total metamorphosis, creating the topological features of the world. His bones became mountain ranges, his blood formed rivers, his breath became the wind, and his voice manifested as thunder. His left eye became the sun, and his right eye became the moon. The egg functioned as the incubator for the architect of the world, and its fracture established the fundamental binary of Chinese philosophy, the separation and interaction of heaven and earth. In the Pacific, the creation myth of the Society Islands centers on the deity Ta'aroa. The narrative states that Ta'aroa existed in solitude with a spinning shell called Rumia. The void outside the shell possessed no light, no sound, and no land. Ta'aroa remained within this confinement for eons, existing in a state of self-containment. Eventually, Ta'aroa exerted force to break open the shell. He utilized the fragments of Rumia to construct the universe. The inner dome of the shell became the sky, while the other fragments formed the earth and the strata of the underworld. Ta'aroa created the physical landscape from his own body, blending his substance with the remnants of the shell to establish the material world. This account highlights the active role of the creator in shaping the egg. Unlike myths where the egg breaks due to external forces or accidental movement, Ta'aroa intentionally destroys his confinement to initiate existence. The shell, previously a prison, becomes the structural foundation of the cosmos, and this motif appears in various forms across Polynesia, reinforcing the idea that the universe originated from a single enclosed source that required violent expansion to accommodate life. The ambiguity of the egg symbol arises from its geometric and biological implications. The shape lacks corners or edges, representing an infinite line that curves back upon itself, and it denotes a system that is self-contained and complete. Within the shell, all necessary components exist for life in a suspended. Within the shell, all necessary components for life exist in a suspended state. This makes it an ideal representation for latent potential, the universe existing in a concept before it exists in form. The hatching process serves as a metaphor for a differentiation of reality. Prior to the crack, opposites coexist in a unified mixture. The rupture marks the induction of duality, up and down, light and dark, solid and fluid. The separation of the shell halves into sky and earth and establishes vertical hierarchy, creating a space between them where humanity and nature can function. The association with gold seen in the Hindu and Orphic traditions connects the egg to the sun and the quality of imperishability. Light serves as the primary agent of order, and the egg is the vessel that delivers this light into the void. Additionally, the egg functions as a womb, linking the cosmic process to biological reproduction. The incubation periods mentioned in myths, whether the 9 months of Prajapati or the 18,000 years of Pangu, correlate the birth of the universe with the gestation cycles of life, rendering the cosmic scale comprehensible to the human mind. Modern cosmology offers a narrative that aligns structurally with these ancient intuitions. In the 1920s, the Belgian physicist Georges Lemaître proposed that the universe began from a single point of infinite density and temperature, which he termed the Primeval Atom. He suggested that all matter in space were compressed into this singularity before undergoing rapid expansion. He and his contemporaries occasionally utilized the metaphor of the cosmic egg to explain this concept to the public, because it effectively conveys the idea of a self-contained unit exploding to create the universe. The expansion of the universe from a singularity parallels the mythological hatching. The singularity, like the cosmic egg, contains all of the energy and matter in a unified state, where the standard laws of physics fail to apply. The Big Bang event functions as the cracking of the shell, facilitating the separation of forces, gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear forces, and the cooling of matter into distinct particles. While the Big Bang label, coined by Fred Hoyle, eventually superseded the cosmic egg terminology, the underlying structural similarity remains. Both models describe a transition from unity to multiplicity, from silence to activity, and from infinite density to spatial expansion. The persistence of the egg metaphor in scientific history demonstrates its utility in visualizing the concepts that exist beyond the limits of human perception. Beyond mythology and cosmology, the symbol of the egg appears in the study of sacred geometry under Egg of Life. This figure consists of 7 circles arranged in a hexagonal pattern. One central circle surrounded by 6 others, all touching the center, and this arrangement represents a stabilization of the seed of life, and serves as foundational component for more complex geometric forms. This pattern demonstrates a directional correlation with the early stages of embryological development. Following fertilization, a zygote undergoes mitosis, dividing from 1 cell to 2, then 4, then to 8. The 8-cell stage, the morula, forms a cluster of spheres that mirrors the geometric construction of the egg of life. This three-dimensional arrangement of cells establishes the orientation of the developing organism, defining the primary axes of the body. The geometric pattern functions as a schematic for biological growth, adhering to strict mathematical progressions. The relationship between the spheres in the egg of life also corresponds to musical ratios. The distance between the centers and the circles replicate the intervals of the octave, the fifth and the fourth, and this connection links visual geometry with auditory harmonics, suggesting that the same mathematical laws governing spatial organization also govern sound. Ancient philosophers such as the Pythagoreans posited that these ratios underpin the structure not only of music, but of the cosmos itself. Architects and builders throughout history integrated these proportions into their designs. The intersection of circles provided a method for determining structural integrity and aesthetic balance without the need for complex calculation. The Egg of Life offered a practical guide for construction, rooting human creations in the same geometric logic found in nature. The concept of emergence is central here. The pattern shows how complex systems arise from simple, repeated rules. A single sphere repeats its form to create a cluster, which in turn acts as the foundation for larger structures. This mirrors the biological reality where identical cells differentiate to form tissues and organs. The geometry illustrates that order arises from the consistent application of simple laws, a principle observed in everything from crystal formation to galactic spirals. The scaling of this pattern is significant. The same geometric constraints that shape a cluster of cells also appear in the packing of atoms in a crystal lattice. The efficiency of the hexagonal arrangement allows for the densest possible packing of spheres, a configuration favored by nature for its stability. This recurrence suggests that the egg is a recognition of a fundamental physical constraint that operates at the microscopic and macroscopic levels. The examination of the cosmic egg reveals a consistent human effort to understand the origin of existence through the concept of containment and release. From the Hermopoean Ogdad to the Vedic Golden Womb, and from the fractured shell of the lava to the separation of yin and yang, culture after culture has identified the oval as the primary vessel of creation. These narratives share a common structure, a state of pre-existence characterized by density and unity, followed by a rupture that creates space, time, and duality. This mythological framework finds a surprising counterpart in the geometry of the Egg of Life and the physics of the Big Bang. The geometric analysis demonstrates that the structure of life adheres to precise mathematical ratios, linking the division of cells to the laws of harmony and spatial packing. Simultaneously, modern cosmology describes the universe's origin as an expansion from a singular point of infinite density, a model that echoes the ancient intuition of a cosmic hatching. The enduring power of the cosmic egg lies in its ability to bridge the gap between the biological and the universal. It grounds the abstract concepts of cosmic origins in a tangible biological process, birth, while possessing the geometric perfection required to represent the absolute. Whether through the lens of a priest interpreting the sunrise, or a philosopher measuring harmonics, or a physicist calculating the expansion of spaces, the egg remains the definitive symbol for the transition from nothingness into the complex reality that exists today. In the next analysis, the discussion will shift into the mechanics driving these expansions. We'll talk about the flower of life, the Big Bang, quantum fluctuations, and what might have served as the crack in the primeval shell. So, thank you. Thank you so much for watching this episode and joining me here today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe like the winners that you are. And I will see you next time. Bye.